Tonight's Mishmar, we're going to speak about a very interesting question. First, we're going to speak about Shovavim. What exactly are the Shovavim? And a very interesting question that I'm sure you probably had, which is, why in the world did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make such a strong dachaf, a push for Arayot, for Colombia, for women, right? For women. Why did he make such a strong Shovavim? You know what Shovavim is? So we're going to start. Okay, fine. So he says like this, right? We know that the Kadmonim actually bring down and the Poskim bring down that we have a concept of Shovavim. What is Shovavim? The parashiot, Shemot, Shin, Va'era, Vav, right? Bet, Beshalach, Bo, Beshalach, Bet, Shovavim, Yitro, Mishpatim, Shovavim. During a leap year, it's an extra 2 parashiot. Shovavim, Tat, Truma, Tetzaveh. Truma, Tetzaveh. So Shovavim, Tat, right? That's going to be, right, during leap year. During leap year. Okay, but if there's no leap year, Shovavim, that's what we know. Very, very good. And it's actually something incredible because you see that not only that the Parashat Shavua is connected to what we're talking about, but just like over there, they were able to go out, galut of the what we call that we went into. We were in exile and we came out, right? We went and we were liberated by our bodies. It wasn't only the bodies; it was the neshama also, which means that now the power of galut mitzrayim, the power of the geula, was not only just geula of the guf; it was geula on everything. And this is actually brought down in the Ramban. Nachmanides brings down in his Akdama and Sefer Shemot. What is Sefer Shemot called? Sefer HaGeula. Now, 1 second. When was the Geula? Parashat Shemot is the beginning. Vayera and Bo is all the 10 plagues. Right? Beshalach is already Kriyat Yam Suf. Why are you calling the entire Sefer HaGeula, if really Be'emet, only the first 3-4 parashiot is Sefer HaGeula? All the rest, you have the 10 Commandments, or the Ma'amad Har Sinai, that's Yitro. You have Mishpatim, which is all the halachot of Choshe Mishpat, back and forth. Right? Then you have Terumat, Tetzaveh, it's all the things of the Mishkan, the Kelim, Bigdei Keuna. What was Sefer Geula? Says Ramban, Sefer Shemot nityacher legalut Mitzrayim. Sefer Shemot was specifically designed for the exile of Mitzrayim. Yetziat Mitzrayim, Ma'amad Har Kabbalat Torah, Kabbalat Mishkan, and all the Kelim. But it's called Sefer Geula. Because without Matan Torah v'Hashraat HaShechina, without giving over the Torah and Shechina, B'chlal Yisrael, there was no Geula. So Kabbalat Torah and Hashraat HaShechina is a Shlemut Geula, meaning like this. The taking out, the liberation of the Jews from Egypt was not an end in itself. It didn't finish there. Because if it would only just be taken out of Alcatraz, you didn't do anything. The kavanah was, you need a real Geula. The real Geula only starts when what? When Be'emet, we already received the Torah and when we have the Shekhinah. That's when the Geula starts. So that's why Yitro and all it's all part of it. Because if you do not have Yitro and the Hashrat HaShekhinah, which was in the Mishkan, which that's the entire concept, Trumat, Tetzaveh, Bereket, Pikudeh, all these things, we don't have nothing. Which means that in itself is not enough. So that's why it says, Ilu Otzianu Mitzrayim, right? Velo Kervanu Lifnei Har Sinai and all that. But why? Because says the Ramban that the real Geula Shelema is only Be'emet when it comes that we have the Ma'amad Har Sinai and Hashrat HaShechina. If we have all that, we're fine. If not, we don't have nothing. And that's what it says when we actually say in the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Be'otziacha ta'am mitzrayim ta'avdun et Elohim al harazeh. So you see that when you came out of Mitzrayim, the purpose was to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ma'amad Har Sinai. And also Parashat Tetzaveh. It says, "V'yadu ki ani Hashem." You're going to know that I'm Hashem, that I took you out of Mitzrayim. Le'shochni betocham. What does that mean? It's to put my Shekhinah amongst Bnei Israel. And if you're not going to have the Shekhinah there, you're not going to have nothing. So it comes out. You actually learn that also from the Arba Kasot. How do you learn the 4 cups? Where do you learn them from? How do you learn the 4 cups? From the, so what is the one of them? V'lakachti etchem li le'am. That wasn't the Geula. The Geula was V'otzeti mitachat tzivlo Mitzrayim. What we spoke about last night. V'otzeti etchem mitachat tzivlo Mitzrayim, right? V'yitzalti etchem me'avodatam. V'galti etchem. Those first three, you could say is Geulah. But that I'm going to take you as a nation, that's not Geulah. That's already something new.
This is the Yechidah.
The pshat is that there is no Geulah without V'lakachti etchem li le'am. If it wasn't for V'lakachti le'echem, which is the fourth one, which is basically that I'm going to take you as a nation, to make you my nation, I could have taken you out of the Mitzrayim. I could have taken you out, but that's not enough. That's right? What is shaveh? It's klum. It's nothing. Fine. So therefore, it comes out that these days are a segula for Geulat HaGuf v'Hanefesh. Not only just the body, also the neshama. And now we're going to start. It actually happened with Rav Shach. That Rabbi came into Rav Shach and he asked Rav Shach, what are we supposed to speak about during Shovavim? Meaning this time, if you actually pay attention, you come to Chok L'Yisrael, yeah? What is all Chok L'Yisrael speaking about? Hilchot Kiddusha, to do with Nida, to do with Ta'ara, Brit Milah, all the life. It's all the things. This is the time that we're supposed to be speaking about these things. So says Rav Shach, he came and he said, well, you want to come and you want to know what you're supposed to strengthen yourself is. He comes and he says, Chizuk Belimud Torah. Strengthen yourself in learning Torah. He says, why? Because there's nothing that helps against the Yetzer Hara more than this. When you're going to cling to it, that's the only thing that's going to help against the Yetzer Hara. So he comes and he says, listen to these words of the Rambam. Right? This is a Rambam that we're going to come back to again at the end of the shiur, but I'm already going to bring down the Rambam at the beginning. The Rambam says in the end of Hilchot Isurei Biyah, when we're talking about immoral relations, the Rambam says, "En lecha davar b'chol haTorah kula shu kasher lerov ha'am lifrosh min harayot v'biyot asurot." You know what's the most difficult to control yourself? Yeah? Are you guys listening? What is the most difficult to control yourself? He says, Arayot and biyot asurot, immorality. So he says, Amru Chachamim, B'shah shenitztavu Yisrael arayot. When Bnei Yisrael were commanded on the arayot, they were crying, and they accepted it with crying. Why? They were crying. So Chachamim come and they say, Gezel v'arayot. A person wants it. Gezel and arayot, meaning stealing, and arayot, a person wants it. You're never going to find a kahal that is 100% that they don't have arayot. It's impossible. You won't find it. And that's why they say, majority of people, they'll come, they'll have something of gezel. There's always going to be a minority minimum that are going to be in arayot. He says everyone is in avak lashon hara. And therefore a person should come and control his yetzer hara to be margilet atzmo b'kedushav ta'ara. And a person should be careful with their yichud, which is one of the big factors, the yichud, secluding yourself with a woman. The Chachamim come and they said they have to be very careful not to be seduced. They even came in, they said to be careful with their daughter-in-laws or the other people also. And the Rambam says, Gedolah mizot, because zot we said, Yifnei atzmo machshato lidivre Torah. Turn always to divrei Torah. V'yarchiv dato b'chokhmah, learn chokhmah. She'en machshevet arayot mitgaberet, ela belev panui min ha-chokhmah. Says the Rambam, you know when it's going to start that a person will come and start thinking about nonsense? When he's not thinking in Torah. When he's not thinking, we just learned this morning, right? Uve chokhmah, and with chokhmah, right? That's what he comes and he says, right? That is called ayelet aviv yalatchen. Okay, so we have the pashtut of the Gdolah, right? Now listen to this, an incredible yesod. Listen carefully. This yesod is worth, I don't want to say $1 million because it's underestimating the yesod. So listen very, very carefully. Okay, this is based upon the Maharal, right? Mi Prague and the Gaon mi Vilna. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed, al Torah, al avodah, ve'al gemilut chasadim. Yeah, so three things: Torah, avodah, gemilut chasadim. Keneged, three different factors. Ben adam lamakom, ben adam lachavero, and ben adam leatzmo. What does that mean? Listen to this. He says like this: the Maharal and the Gaon mi Vilna, they're basing it also on the pasuk of Shichelo banam umav dor keshuv taltol. The shlosha mudei haolam are shloshet chalakim babriya, in the entire creation. Avodah is ben adam lamakom. When we serve at Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is avodah, service between us and Hashem. So ben adam lamakom is avodah. Gemilut chasadim. When you do chesed with your friend, what is Torah? Ben Adam le'atzmo. Not Ben Adam le'makom. Not Ben Adam le'chavero. Ben Adam le'atzmo, to do with himself. Why? They said, obviously, every mitzvah can make a person become holier and to rise them above. It makes them, the neshama, have an incredible light. But there's no mitzvah which uplifts a human being more than Ben Adam Latzmo, which is Torah. Because the Torah comes and the Torah will make a person grow. It will make him adle darga too, whether it's going to be even a malach and even higher up. And therefore comes and adds the Gaon Mivilna and the Maral Miprad. So 1 second, what do you have? You have 3 amudim. Those are mitzvot. Avodah, Gimilut Chasadim, and Torah. What is on the other side? Thank you. What is on the other side? There's 3 mitzvot.
No. The 3 averot, you mean?
What?
What the 3 averot?
What are the 3 averot? Yes. We just said one more time. Let me go back. You're not with me. We have a Mishnah. The Mishnah says that everything in this world is built upon the 3 concepts. Ben Adam lamakom, Ben Adam lechavero, and Ben Adam latzmo. Between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Between us and our friends. It's called interpersonal relationships. Right? Between us and our Creator, and between us and ourselves. So we came and we said, Ala Torah, ala avodah, vel gimilut chasadim. Torah is Ben Adam latzmo, for ourselves. Because when we learn Torah, we change. We ourselves become something different. Which one? So 1 second. So Sami says, the Gimel Averot Chamurot. What does that mean? Says the Gaon Mivilna and the Maharal, Zelumat Ze, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything equally. Just like you have 3, which are the 3 mitzvot, ala Torah, ala avodah, ala gimilut chasadim, and each one is keneged ben adam lamakom, ben adam lechavero, ben adam latzmo. So too there are Gimel Averot Chamurot. Gilui Arayot, Shfichut Damim, and which one? Avodah Zarah. Yeah, Avodah Zarah. The 3 cardinal sins. So what happens? So he says these 3 cardinal sins are what's going to change everything. So he's going to start. Avodah Zarah is avatuma. If you want to come and you want to go against Hashem, what is the worst thing? Avodah Zarah. That's Ben Adam HaMakom. Shvichut Damim is Ben Adam Lechavero. What's worse than coming and killing your friend? There's no worse Ben Adam Lechavero than this. Right? That's Ben Adam Lechavero. Gilui Arayot is Ben Adam La'atzmo. Why is Gilui Arayot Ben Adam La'atzmo? Why, if a person is going to have immoral relations, that's between him and himself. Why? So he comes and he says, every Avirah is mitameh it's a human being. Every Avirah comes and impurifies a human being. But the one which makes the worst effect on a human being is Gilui Arayot. And that's what it says in the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh, by Gilui Arayot, he says, Ki tumat chedze mashe tuma al kol evrei ha'adam ve'kochotav. Do you know that there's one Avirah that has an effect on the entire body? He says, you know what that Avirah is? Gilui Arayot. By the way, there's an incredible sefer called Shvile Emunah, if I remember correctly. It's one of the Talmidim of the Rosh. And he there says something very interesting, right? Do you know that when children are very young, sometimes they wet themselves? Yeah, they make in their, especially at the beginning with potty training and all that. It's normal. Usually once they get a little bit older, right, and they're controlled, did anybody ever wet themselves? So you're right, maybe when they're already in their 80s or whatever it is, so maybe they go, again, it's, the cycle. So they go back to the, but nobody does it. Yeah? So then, why is it? What? Yeah? I can't hear you. Happens? No? A person usually will wake up. A person will wake up. The question is, why is it that a person will have wet dreams? Wet dreams is mikere laila. Why is it?
Because of his machshavot during the day.
But okay. So, but why is it, whether to do with machshavot or no machshavot, at the end of the day, why can't he control himself?
What to do what?
So why is it that if sometimes he can have a seminal discharge and he's half asleep? Why is it that urine cannot come out if he's sleeping and he'll wake up and have to run to the washroom, but a seminal discharge could come out when he's sleeping? Answers the Shvile Munah, the seminal discharge, the entire body is enjoying it. It's not just one part of the body. It's the entire body is part of it. And therefore, that's why he could actually come and he could have a seminal discharge. The urine is not the entire body. So therefore, he won't actually do that. Now, what's the Or HaChaim HaKadosh? The Or HaChaim HaKadosh comes and he says, that's the explanation, right, of the Tumah of Arayot. Are you listening? Yeah. The Tumat Arayot is the only Avera. That means, just like the Torah is the only thing which actually comes and makes the entire human being holy, so too Gilui Arayot is the only Avera that makes the entire human being tameh, the entire body, not just one part. Meaning a person will think it's only his ever. No, his entire body becomes tameh when he comes and he does Gilui Arayot.
But you drink, you didn't do nothing wrong.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like he said,
So,
don't think about doing things. No, but don't think about doing certain things during the night, during the day. 1 minute. So he says, that means like this. If we're going to come now and we're going to make a connection and we're going to put one beside each other, what do we just say? We said avodah was ben adam makom. What was the avera? Avodah zarah. So you see that avodah zarah and avodah are parallel. Yeah, what's the next one down? Shvichut damim and gemilut chasadim. Okay, what's the next parallel? Torah and gilui arayot. So now 1 second. Now we have to. Now we're going to start. So it comes out that through Esek Torah we come and we actually understand the concept at when we learn Torah we become like malachim, and when we come and we start doing immoral relations we become like the animals. But we become the exact opposite. We are mitamer ourselves. So now listen to this Gemara. Gemara Masechet Pesachim. We speak about this every single year in Shavuot. The Gemara Masechet Pesachim comes and it says, "Samechet Amud Bet Sach." Right? We spoke about this. You remember when we spoke? I don't remember who gave us that siman about Sach, Samechet, right? Sicha, right? Because we said the Pesach is the mouth that's talking, but Daf Samechet is when Rabbi Yosef comes and he says, "Ilule dehai yoma kagarim." There's a song nowadays, by the way, right? About Kama Yosefika Beshika. Right? There's a whole song, right? What does that mean? He comes and he says like this. He says, right? We think that people, as if to say that, listen, Rav Yosef comes and he says something incredible. Rav Yosef comes and he tells the Talmidim, there's a Yosef there in the shuk. What's the difference between the Yosef in the shuk, the John Doe in the shuk, and me? You look at me and I'm Rav Yosef. Remember that every single one of these Tanaim, they could have done Tchiyat HaMetim. There are people that are on different levels. He's coming, he's telling them, what's the difference between me and them? What does he tell them? He says, you should know, right? There's no difference. He says, you know what? Hahu Yoma. What does that mean, Hahu Yoma? An extra Gemara, an extra Mishnah Brura, an extra, every single time that you learn more Torah, you become a completely different person. And therefore, it completely changes who you are. So you thought beforehand that you're Mr. A. Because you came and you learned Torah, you came up and now you could become actually Mamash. That's Ben Adam Latzmo. It's between you and yourself. So now we come and we say, did you ever see a Bal Teshuvah? You take a picture of a Bal Teshuvah. Beforehand, you come and you say, they look different. They don't look different anymore just because beforehand they had a kuku, right? They had the ponytail, or they had an earring, or they have, all the tattoos. And even their eyes look different. And you ask yourself, what happened? What changed? So you're right. Okay, you take a haircut, you got rid of the kuku. You take off the earring. Okay, good. But what happened? What happens is a new, completely different creature. It's a completely different human being. Why? Because of the kedusha that they put. Because again, the difference between them is that once a person is going to work on the Torah, right, on himself, it changes everything. Okay. Now we actually understand another pasuk. Listen to this. Do you know it says, "Ushmartem atem et chukotai ve'et mishpatai ve'lo ta'asu mikol ha'to'avot ha'ele." Right? What does that mean? Ushmartem atem. What does ushmartem mean? Shamar. What is shamar? To watch over. No, not listen. Not shamar. Shamar. To watch over. Shomer. Right? Monitor. Ushmartem means you should monitor. So why does it say atem? It already just told you ushmartem. Why does it say ushmartem atem? You, but I'm speaking in you like vu, like in plural, not you by yourself. So if it already says ushmartem echukotai v'mishpatai, why is it ushmartem atem? The word is extra. Who asked the question? Torah HaChaim HaKadosh. Torah HaChaim HaKadosh answers another answer. Now he comes and he says, you know what the answer is? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kibiyachol, he's actually coming And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming and telling you, you know who's Ushmartem? Atem, you guys yourselves. He says, why? He says, because you're going to destroy your Tzelem Elokim if you're not going to watch it over. Now, I would have thought to say, this is only going to be by what? Well, that's also by kosher, it's true, but by arayot. But where else is it written? Again, we're always doing the parallel between arayot and Torah. Says the pasuk in Devarim, Kaftet, Chet, Ushmartem et ivrei haberit hazot, va'asitem otam. Amar Rava, says Rava, Al tikre va'asitem otam, ela va'asitem atem. Why va'asitem atem? Kol halomed Torah umlamda, kilu asa la'atzmo. When you come and you learn Torah, you're doing it for yourself. What does that mean? So you see that the atem is written by both. Also Gilui Arayot and also by Limud Torah. Why? Because when you come and you're learning Torah, or you come and you're doing Arayot, you're changing yourself. You're changing something part of you. So now listen to this Zohar HaKadosh, brought down in the Tzidkat HaKohen, Tzidkat HaTzadik, Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin. Listen to this Zohar HaKadosh. The Zohar HaKadosh comes and says, he brings it's also a Gemara in Yomah, Samchtet Amubet, and Shek Knesset HaGdolah, they wanted to come, and they wanted to destroy the Yetzer Hara. They saw it was a Zman Ratzon, they came and they shechted the Yetzer Hara, no more Avodah Zarah. They come and they say, you know what, if it's already an Et Ratzon, and you got something from Hashem, what do? Papa, you gave me something, ask for something else. So what did they want to do? They wanted also the Yetzer Hara of Arayot. No more Gilo Arayot. We don't have any more Yetzer Hara for women. What happened? They asked for it. And then what happened? They gave it to them. The Nevi'im came and they said, one second, you're going to destroy the entire world. Why? They looked in the entire world, they couldn't find an egg that was in all of Eretz Israel, right, of that day. Meaning, the second that they took away the Yetzer Hara, nobody wanted to procreate. Nobody wanted to have children. Why? If there was no Yetzer Hara for a woman, nobody would even have children. There was no puruvu. There was nothing. Nothing. Huh? Even the animals. No Yetzer Hara, nothing.
The right animals are there and men.
No, but nothing. No, nothing. So what happened? They came and they said, what are we going to do? They said, if we're going to come and completely destroy the Yetzer Hara, we're going to destroy the world. If we only ask for half, it doesn't work either. Because Hashem doesn't give you half. There's no chatzai bakar. There's no half of the. It's either all or nothing. So what happened? He came and they said, so you know what we do? They went and they put it back, but they blinded him a little bit. Meaning that they came and they made it lighter. What does that mean? That they say that a person is not going to be running after his own siblings, right? His own mother, his own sister. Now again, Babanoten or Rabim obviously depends on the places, but usually a person does not run after their siblings just because of that. So what happens? You see from here that they saw that there was no kiyum in the world, and therefore they needed the Yetzer Hara of Arayot. But listen to another Zohar HaKadosh in Midrash Ne'elam. The Zohar HaKadosh says there's another reason why we needed the Yetzer Hara of Arayot. You know why? He says, why did they need it? Itzrich Yetzer Hara le'olam kemitra le'olam. We need the Yetzer Hara to the world just like we need rain in the world. What do we speak about rain in the world? Tanit, Kiyam Mesechta. Just like Kiyam Mesechta. Yeah, he's sleeping over there. Yeah, Dvarim, Harbe Dvarim. Yeah, so he says, what does that mean? He comes and he says, you need it just like rain. He says, why? He says, Elmaleh Yetzer Hara, chedvata deshmata lo liyaveh. If it wasn't that a person had Yetzer Hara of women, there would be no Simchat Torah. There would be no Esh Torah. There would be no fire of the Torah. Yeah? What does that mean? How do you see that?
You see?
You see it? What does that mean? All the fire of the Torah. Everything is only because, meaning that we would have been able to learn Torah. It would have been Yavesh. It would have been dry. If it wasn't for the fact that there was going to be the fire of the Ta'avah, the Esh Ta'avah that's burning inside, a person would learn Torah and it would be dry facts. Nobody would be excited of learning Torah. Why? There's no Yetzer Hara of Arayot. So you're actually coming and saying here something incredible. Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin is coming and telling you that inside the reason why a person loves the Torah is because of the Yetzer Hara of Arayot. Which means that just like Kuchot HaNefesh, every single person has to use it for a certain reason. So for example, he comes and he says, Ahava. A person could choose to have Avat Hashem, Avat Torah, Avat or Chas Shalom, Avat Tumah. He could love What? He could love Tumah. He could love, depends what he loves. Yeah, the same thing in Achamim. Mercy. A person could come, they can have mercy whether it's going to be on the dogs and cats. Right? A lot of people do that nowadays. Right? They have more mercy on dogs and cats than what they do on, even more than human beings. Right? That's what they have. But, or you could have it on murderers. There's a lot of people that have a lot of mercy. A lot of mercy on thing. But he says, or you could come and you could have it on human beings. Same thing with cheshek. Desires, you're the one that decides where you're putting your desires. Meaning, we all have that desires, but it all depends. So now it makes sense. Another incredible Zohar HaKadosh. I'm going to ask you a question. During the time of the Mabul, were they tzaddikim or not?
No.
Were they tzaddikim or not? During the time of the Mabul.
No.
Listen to this Zohar HaKadosh. Listen to this Zohar HaKadosh. Listen to this Zohar HaKadosh. Bizman HaMabul hayu reuyim lekabel HaTorah. Do you know during the Mabul, they could have received the Torah. And the Gemara in Chulin says, B'shagam u'basar. What is B'shagam u'basar? The letters B'shagam is Moshe. How do you have Moshe? Bet and Gimel. How much is 2 and 3? Is 5. That's a hey. B'shagam, you have the Shin and the Mem. Shin, Mem, and hey is Moshe. B'shagam u'basar. Hayta tzricha neshamat Moshe laredet bizmanam u'kabel et HaTorah. During the time of the Mabul, Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to come down and give us the Torah. During the time of the Mabul. But what happened? Says, Kevan shechatu vekilkelu ba'arayot kol kach. Since they used that Yetzer Hara v'arayot so strong, instead of using it for the Torah, they used it for what? For immorality, for immoral relations. So then they went and they destroyed the entire world. But really, be'emet, they were on that level of that. What do we learn from here? We learn from here something incredible. We're learning from here that really, be'emet, they were supposed to receive the Torah. But what happened is that they have it. So comes Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin and he says an incredible yesod. Listen to this. I'm going to read to you word for word his language. Listen. Listen. Mi sheyesh lo tzuka gdola leta'avat haguf. Some people, they have a lot of desires for women. A lot of desires. So he says, Yeah? Ali tatzev bazeh. Don't be sad. No, but not only normally. Don't be sad. Lachshov kama pagumu sheyesh lo tzuka kol kach. A person could think, listen, I'm a rasha. He loves so much, he's a big rasha. He says, Adirabba. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin, the exact opposite. Hu kli muchan letokef ahava utzukat drishat haemet. That same utensil is already the vehicle in order to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to become even greater. Just like the Ahu Saba told, Eliyahu Navi told Abaye. He said, tzadikim nidme lahem kehar, ki laelu tzukatam v'tavotam atzamim yoter, means that for them they even have a harder. What was happening with Abaye? The Gemara speaks about a story in Abaye, right? Nun bet amud aleph. Abaye was walking and he heard that there was a boy and a girl. There was a couple. So the boy comes in, I'm going to accompany you. Says Abaye, 1 minute. I can't let them go on their own. If I'm going to let them go on their own, what's going to happen? Right? They're going to do the Avirah. So Abaye followed them the entire time. Right behind, obviously, he was a good spy. Yeah, it was a good shabak. Yeah. So Abaye was following the entire time. And all of a sudden, what happens is all of a sudden he comes and he sees that they separate. He comes and he says, Ribono Shalom, this guy's a big tzaddik. If it was me, I for sure would have done Avirah. And this guy's coming and he's, okay. What's going on? How does that make sense? Eliyahu Navi comes and he tells him, don't worry about it. He says, why? Whoever is greater than his friend, his Yetzer Hara is greater than his friend. What does that mean? The sod is, the shoresh of Shnei Advarim come from the same thing. Meaning a person that has such a strong Yetzer Hara for Arayot, if he channels it to what? If he channels it to the Torah, there's nothing that can stand in front of him. He'll become something incredible. He'll become something that's... So some people think, listen, the great people, they had an incredible neshama. They were incredible people. It's incorrect. Why? We have to know is the exact opposite. The nisayon, meaning the test, is what brought them to become so great. Because if they had such a big avat Torah, Chas v'shalom, if they would have channeled it to the wrong way, it would have been to Arayot. But they didn't do that. And therefore, when they channeled it to the Torah, they actually changed everything. And that's Rav Chaim Vital. Listen to this. Rav Chaim Vital comes and he says, Bishnat Yudale leprata yitzira. He comes and he says, Haiti ben Yudbet Shana. Rav Chaim Vital is 12 years old. And Rav Chaim Vital comes and he says, Chacham gadol besirtute kaf hayad hebib sirtute. There was a person that he was a very big expert in the, how do you call the lines of the hands? In the reading of the palm readers. So he comes and he looked in his palm and says, Rav Chaim Vital, da you should know, ki biyotcha ben kaf daled shana, when you're going to become 24 years old. So 12 years, he's 12 years old now. When you become 24, you're going to have irurim rabim b'libecha. You're going to have a lot of different thoughts in your mind. And it's going to try to stop you from learning the Torah, even against your will for 2.5 years. And then afterwards, you're going to have two paths. One to Gan Eden and one to Gainam. And now you're going to have the Bechira. You're going to choose. So he says, if you're going to come and choose the path of Gainam, there's nobody that's going to be a bigger Rasha than you. Whoa. This is what the rabbi is telling Rav Chaim Vital. He's a 12-year-old boy. And he says, but if you're going to choose the path of Gan Eden, you're going to be one of the greatest in Chokhmah Nidatchet, Davar Shelo Yeshua, something that you're not going to understand even. So imagine this is what Rav Chaim Vital is coming, and what he's saying.
Who told that to Rav Chaim Vital?
Which one? He actually says a person should never say that you'll never get it without a lot of amal and everything. He says, why? He says everybody has milchemet ha-yetzirah. Everybody has a test and a fight against the yetzirah. He says, but somebody that has a bigger neshama, he has a much bigger test. So he says, it's just like a tzava. You're in the army. He says, there's a regular foot soldier, right? A regular guy, right? He's got a gun. He says, obviously, right? He's got, but now you have a commander. You have somebody that's on top. He says, the chayal shemachzik roveh, right? So the one that's a regular foot soldier, he can have atzlacha, but it's limited. At the end of the day, he's a regular foot soldier. So he says, but the kishalom, the fall, is also small, right? But he says, but a chayal that's a mefaked, when you have a chayal that he's like the general, he says he's got an entire team. He could have much more atzlacha because he's got an entire team with him. So he could have much more success. But the rate of also failure is also much, much, much bigger. Because if one foot soldier fails, okay, it's one guy. But if it's the mefaked, if it's the general, so then everyone fails. Because they're all there and they're all under him. And that's why it all depends on the leader. Right? It all depends who's the one that's actually leading. So now he comes and he says, and that's what we saw also in the Midrash to do with Esav. Esav, what does it mean by Yitzhak? We know that Esav Rasha, why does it say that they were running to the Bet HaMidrash, running to the Avodah Zarah? He comes and he says, was Be'emet. If Esav Rasha would have actually come and paid attention, his potential could have been much greater than everybody else. And now listen to this Gaon Mivina. Another Gaon. Listen to this. The Gaon says, there's a Gemara Masechet Batra, Tafnun Chet Amud Bet. The Gemara says, Rosh Kol HaCholaim Dam. The one of all the sicknesses, the head of all sicknesses is blood. Rosh Kol HaRefuot, the head of all the cures is wine. They actually know that wine is actually very healthy for you, right? Al Pi Kabbalah also to drink wine, but it's good for health, right? Huh?
Antioxidant.
Exactly. It's an antioxidant. Ubimkom she'en yain. Says the Gemara, if there's no yain, sham tzarich levakesh refuot. Then you have to look for refuot. You have to look for cures. Says the Gaon Mivilna, this is not talking about physical. It's talking about spiritual. How do we explain this? Says the Gaon Mivilna, Rosh kol choli nefesh udam, dam avera. You know what's the worst of all the cholaim? What's the worst of all the averot? Dam of avera. Lav davka nida, but it's dam of avera. What does it mean dam of avera? He says arayot. He says why? That stam avera. Whenever the Gemara says avera, hergel avera. Whenever it says avera stam, just like chag stam means Sukkot, avera stam means arayot. He says binan bechen stam yetzerara. It means for arayot. Stam rasha is also an arayot. Meaning, if you come and you say this guy's a rasha, usually that means on arayot more than anything else. Stam rasha is on this. Stam yetzerara is on this. Stam avera is on arayot. Everything's arayot. So comes the Gaon and continues. Stam avera is arayot. One more time. Stam avera is arayot. Stam Yetzirah is arayot. Stam Rasha is arayot. Meaning like this. If I come and he says, Hergel Avera. What is Hergel Avera? They actually say, the Gemara says all the time, what is Hergel Avera? Arayot. Hergel Avera means that you're going to go into Averot. What Avera? Didn't say.
Right.
If it doesn't specify and it says Avera, Avera means arayot.
Not avodah zarah.
Not avodah zarah, arayot. When it says Stam Rasha, it means either Rasha, arayot. When it says Stam Yetzirah, it means arayot. That's what the Gaon is explaining. Rosh kol harefuot, says the Gaon. What is the cure? Wine. What wine? Wine is Torah. Why? He says Yenash Torah. HaTorah ninshela yain. The Torah is compared to wine. Like it says, V'shatub yain masachti. Somebody that is not about Torah, he needs refuot. What does it mean? If you don't have Torah, right? That's what it said. It said over there, if a person does not have yain, if they don't have Torah, you have to be mevakesh trufot. What does that mean? Tzarich lirfuot amidot neged yetzirah. Aval mishu bal Torah en tzarich. Why? Because he says lasok b'Torah. Meaning, if you have Torah, the biggest cure is the Torah. If you don't have Torah, now you have to start looking for refuot because now you don't have nothing. And that's also when Chazal come and they say it's a mashal. He comes and he says, imagine right now you're going with your son in the desert, and he comes and he says, in the middle of the way, your son is thirsty. But what do you have? You have a water, but it's all contaminated water. So you come and you tell your son, listen, but he says, but Papa, I'm thirsty. He says, okay, but he says, no, but it's zilobari, it's not healthy. So no, but he says, you know what, no, but I don't want to take you to the hospital. Okay, fine. He said, okay. After a little bit of time, he comes, no, sorry, the first time he says, you don't want a stomach ache. Afterwards, he comes and he tells him, I don't want to take you to the hospital. Afterwards, he comes and he tells you, just wait another 10 minutes. He keeps on trying to, but what's the refuah? The refuah is, give him a water of me'edin, give him a beautiful bottle of water, and now he drinks. That's the Torah. Because basically, you keep on trying to get him away from that, but it's impossible. You need the Torah. Once you give him the Torah, that's all that you need. So he comes and he says, Adam, a person that has a Yetzirah inside of him, you could say on Geinam, you could say about Onashim, you could tell, imagine right now, you have a guy that is going after the Yetzirah. You could speak about that he's going to get Geinam, it's not going to help him. You could speak about punishments, it's not going to help him. The only thing that will help him is Torah. The only thing. The only thing that will help a human being is Torah. If there's no Torah, it doesn't help. You could speak the no, but it's not good. You're going out with a goya, and you're going out with this, and you're doing this. Huh? Only, very good. Only the Torah. Now listen to this. What's the explanation that? Says the Gaon Mivilna. Chazal say in the Gemara in Shabbat. Says the Gaon abor rek. The neshama of a human being is rek. Rek from what? Empty. Empty from the Torah. En mayim el Torah. If the neshama is empty, that you don't have water, you don't have Torah, nechashim v'akravim yeshbo. You don't have Torah. You have nechashim v'akravim. What is the nechashim v'akravim? All the midot megunot, all the bad things are going to come into him. Because the person that does not have Torah inside of him, that's when everything comes in. And that's why it's actually brought down an incredible story with the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish, there was a boy that he was learning in yeshiva, and he was thrown out of the yeshiva. So he came in front of the Chazon Ish and he told him the story. So he was speaking with him, and he comes and he says, no, I'm going to get you back into yeshiva. He went and he got him back into yeshiva. What happened is after a little while, again, the boy fell. And again, he was basically, so he comes with the Rabbi, with the principal. The principal comes, and they come in front of the Chazon Ish. So the Chazon Ish comes and he says, everyone, you know what, please, everyone stay outside. I'll call you back in a few minutes. He put everyone outside, and what did he do? He came and he started learning with the boy for 40 minutes. Imagine, personal chavruta. This boy, with the Chazon Ish, personal chavruta for 40 minutes. After the 40 minutes, he comes and he calls back in the rabbi. And the boy, he lets out the boy. So the rabbi comes in and he says, I don't understand. He says, Yilamdenu Rabbenu, Rabbi, please teach me. I don't understand. He says, I came to get permission to throw him out of the yeshiva. Either that, right? Or if not to throw, at least you're telling me that you're not going to be close to him anymore. Because if he's still misbehaving, how does he have such a close connection with the Chazon Ish? What happens? He comes inside with you, and you come and you give him a personal chavruta of 40 minutes. What's going on? He didn't understand. He says, please teach me, Rabbi. I'm lost. Says the Chazon Ish, what do you want from me? He says, Yesh li sipuk v'ana'ah mima'asav ha'mkulkalim. He says, I enjoy that he has such an actions. He says, you know why? He says, if he doesn't have anything else, he's going to fall again. He says, there's only one thing. He doesn't have the taste of the Torah. If you give him the taste of the Torah, everything else will go away from him. That's what he needed. He needs to learn. He needs to enjoy the learning. It was a rebuke to the teacher, but he was showing the teacher that I was trying to instill with him the love of the Torah. Because if you come and you take the boy and you start giving it to him, and he starts and he's like this, all of a sudden it changes everything. And that's the Gemara in Kiddushin, the Flam and the Mubet. The Gemara says, Barati Yetzirah, Barati Lo, Torah Tavlin. I'm going to ask you a question. What does that mean? I created the Yetzirah. I created the Torah as a Tavlin. What's a Tavlin?
Medicine.
You could call it an antidote, a medicine. But what's a condiment? A condiment, like spices. You know, in Hebrew, Tavlinim, I thought he was going to tell me. What are Tavlinim? Spices. I'm going to ask you a question. No, he's already in the Olamot, yeah?
No,
Listen.
I saw
The
about
barring, the barring.
Okay.
I saw about Yosef.
Okay, one second. One second, you tell me about Yosef. 1 second. What happens now? Do you realize, I'm going to ask you a question. Tavlinim, when you put spices, does it only add to the taste? Or does it completely take away from the... It does not take away. It enhances. Tavlinim enhances. So he comes and he says like this. He says, why does it call it a tavlin? He comes and he says, it doesn't say that it's going to be, it's mematek etara. It makes sweetened. It sweetens it. It enhances it. He says, so to Torah tavlin. What does that mean? The Torah is mematek et yetzirah. Lechaven oto la Torah velo lo ta'ava v'arayot. The Torah, what it does is it's a tavlin, it's a condiment. It's like spices. It comes and it tells you that same yetzirah that you have for arayot, use it for the Torah. Use it for the Torah. Don't use it for anything else. What happened with the Resh Lakish? Rabbi Yochanan comes and he saw your strength and you're coming and you're jumping around and you're a bandit and you're being all those things. Use it for the Torah. Because that same fire that you have, channel it. Channel it for the positive. And now we understand another Gemara. There's an interesting Gemara. I actually told this once to Balabait. Right? You know that in every single Bet Knesset, you always have, right, the shuk. Right? What does it mean, the shuk? You have the corner. And in the corner, that's where usually people talk. Or that's where usually people this and that. So many times I come here. Huh? Yeah, Pinat Dibur. So I come here, and many times I come and I tell them, by the way, you should know, there's a Gemara. The Gemara says, Im paga becha menuval, moshcheu lebet midrash. If you have the Yetzirah, that's paga becha. That means he confronts you. What do? Drag him into the bet midrash. So I tell that many times to the people that are here in the back, in the corner. I tell them, paga becha menuval, moshcheu lebet midrash. I come and try to grab him inside the bet midrash. But now I come and ask them a question. Why does it say, paga becha menuval, moshcheu lebet midrash? If you have the Yetzirah, drag him into the bet midrash. Why do you want the Yetzirah in the bet midrash? Keep the Yetzirah outside. Tell the Yetzirah, wait for me here. Tell him, stay outside, right? And then go into the Bet HaMikdash. What does that mean? Moschil, drag him into the Bet HaMikdash. What's going on? According to what we just said, it makes sense. According to what we just said, we don't want to leave the Yetzirah outside. That same Yetzirah that we were going to use outside, use him for the inside. Use him. Exactly. So you have to use him on the inside. You have to bring him inside. And now we understand the Rambam. The Rambam says, think in Torah. Because when you're going to come and start thinking in Torah, all of a sudden everything's going to change. And that's why they once said with Rav Shach that somebody went and they had a problem in the yeshiva. So they went to Rav Shach, they started telling him about the problem of the yeshiva. Shh. Yeah? So he comes and he said, what happened was that when Rav Shach heard the story, right, what happened is that all of a sudden he says, Chaval, he didn't have taste in the Tosafot. So what Tosafot? Right, what Tosafot? He's not Tosafot. What's going on? He didn't understand a Tosafot. This boy is a Tosafot. He's going, I don't know what. And then you're talking about Tosafot. He says, you're right, Rav Akiva Eger. What does that mean? Rav Shach wanted to understand that if the boy doesn't have enjoyment in the Torah, you can't expect anything from him. You can't expect anything from him. And now we actually understand something incredible. The Pasuk in Mishle says, Mezima tishmor alecha, tevuna tintzrecha. What is mezima? Etzat chitin. What does that mean, etzat chitin? He comes and he says like this. He says, how does the Yetzirah start of arayot? Mezima. You know what mezima is? He comes and he says, mezima is zema, sakranut. Do you know the Gemara says, right? Sakranut, being curious. The Gemara says, how does the Yetzirah start? Right? Alev chomed v'ayin roa, right? He says the heart starts, and then the eye sees, and then it comes and it's Webekibo, it starts. And the question is, if you didn't see anything yet, why do you have such a strong Yetzer Hara? And the answer is because a person by nature, they're curious. So the curiosity that they want to have, what's going on around them, what's happening around, that curiosity is called mezima. Mezima comes from zema. What is this? Mazeh. Right? What is this? Right? Why? Because it's actually going to be curiosity. It is. That is zima. Zima is zima. Zima is zema. Zima is zema. Yeah, zima is nut. So he says, how do you know that? He says, Adam Sakran, he doesn't say zema, he says mazeh. Right? What is this? So he comes and he says like this. He says, zo mahi, what is this? So he comes and he says, that's explanation also when it says to do with the chet of the etzadat. It was sakranut, it was to see what's going on. So he comes and he says, Simaon atzum, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and put inside the human being. For what? To have chidushim also. What does that mean? When you come, right, the Chazal say that the fish, we are compared to fish. We just had in Parashat Vayechi, we're compared to fish. But why? It says like this, listen to this Bereshit Rabbah, Midrash. Lama nimshelu Yisrael ledagim shebayam? Why are Bnei Yisrael like the fish? Just like the fish are growing in the water, the second that a drop comes down, meaning it starts raining, and a drop comes down, they come and they accept it with all the thirst in the world. Now, but they're in water. But that's what happens. He says, Kach Yisrael, so to Yisrael, gedelim b'mayim b'Torah. Kevan shen shomim dvar chadash. Once they hear a chidush, they accept it as if they never know. What does that mean? A person that loves Torah can never stop understanding Torah. Do you know there's a lot of balabatim also, right? That they think that they know everything. And therefore it's a big mistake. Why is it a big mistake? Because they can't learn. They come, they sit down in a shiur, and they don't hear any chidush. And their biggest mistake is that they don't understand. That means they don't have thirst of Torah. Why? Rav Ovadia Yosef, he brings down, there was a sefer that came out of Rav Ovadia during Ben Azmani. And it said there that many times Rav Ovadia Yosef would come to a shiur, and sometimes it would happen that he comes in and the other rabbi didn't finish. But now, it wasn't that all of a sudden now they're just going to stop the shiur and that's it. You understand? So they want to, so what's going to happen then? So therefore, the rabbi would offer Rav Ovadia, start the shiur. He said, no, continue. Bechavod. And Rav Ovadia would sit and listen. And Rav Ovadia always said, En bet midrash belo chidush. What does it mean, En bet midrash belo chidush? If you come to a shiur Torah and you say that he didn't say anything new, there's something wrong. You know why? Right? You know why? Because that means that if there's shivim panim la Torah, I could tell you a Gemara, and you could learn it one way, and I'll tell it to you the exact opposite way. I'll give you an example. Do you know there's a Gemara Masechet Shabbat Kuf Yutet Amud Bet that says, Kol ha'oneh amen yesh ben haba bechol kocho, korin lo gzar dino shel 70 shana. Anybody that answers amen yesh ben haba with all his strength, they're going to destroy bad decrees of 70 years. I heard the Gemara once, and I heard it a second time. And I'm going to ask you a question. Is it on future or is it on past? One more time. Kol ha'oneh amen yesh ben haba bechol kocho. Anybody that answers amen yesh ben haba with all his koach, korin lo gzar dino. They're going to destroy. They're going to tear up. Korea. Gzar dino shel 70 shana. What does that mean? That means that if he did terrible things for 70 years, right? And now he's 70 years old, but it's just a figure of speech for 70. The 70 is the lifetime of a human being, right? So now they tear it up because now that he's coming and he's answering Amen Hashem and Abba, making a Kiddush Hashem, he knew everything that he did was nothing. Or is it the exact opposite? Or is it on the future? So I actually heard it, and it all depends how you want to interpret it. And maybe they're both true, but it all depends how you hear it. Another one, right? Another one, something incredible. I always heard a Dvar Torah that we're going to speak about Parashat B'Shalach. Yeah, Felipe. Parashat B'Shalach. What's written in Parashat B'Shalach? Sus v'rochevo rama v'yam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the horse and his rider and he threw it into the sea. What does Miriam come and she repeat? The exact same thing. Comes Vatan la Miriam, Shiru la Hashem ki gaoga, sus v'rochevo. Out of all the psukim, you have to bring that pasuk. She couldn't find a better pasuk. Hashem yimloch l'olam va'ed. What's the merit of the woman? Very good. What does that mean? So the way that we explained it is that the woman The women, they had a question. And the question that they asked was, 1 second. We understand that the men came out of Mitzrayim, there was a purpose. What was the purpose? So have Ma'amad Har Sinai. Women are not obligated in the Torah. So why do we come out of Mitzrayim? So answered Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is what Miriam is answering the women. Miriam. She answered them. The question is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu throw the sus into the river? The sus didn't do anything. The sus is a horse. You think the horse cared what it was doing? The horse comes, you put yourself on a rider on a horse, and then you go do something. What does the horse do anything? Why did they get punished? But rather, since the horse carried the rider, so therefore, just like the rider is punished, the sus is punished. So therefore, just like the men are gluing, but the women are the ones that are actually coming, and they're actually helping the men. But what are you calling the women? Asus. Yeah? That's what you think. Saying the horse and the rider, you understand? So it sounds all good, no?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You agree with it? Okay, there you go. I'm going to sell it. Yeah, you agree. The women are horses. That's what you're saying. I went once and I heard the Dvar Torah, the exact opposite.
You're on live, lad.
Yes, I'm live. I'm recording. It was the exact opposite. What do you mean the exact opposite? The horsepower, the horse was the men. But the women, it's like the neck. What does it mean like the neck? What does that mean? The horse, Bemet, was actually the men. Because the horse is the men that they're always running to do something. But the women are the ones that are giving the direction. And it's like the neck. Do you know, right? You can have a body, but it's the neck which is actually coming and taking the direction of what you're looking at. So therefore, for an Esav Rasha, Mauroeh, right? Vayar Esav picks up his eyes. What does he see? Vayar et Anashim. He sees the women. What is Yaakov? What does all the rest see? Right? They pick up their eyes. He sees Gimalim. He sees Gimalim. He doesn't see the women. There was a woman there. He doesn't see the women. Depends it all depends on the neck, what you're looking at. So therefore the women are the ones that are taking that horsepower and they're the ones which are channeling it. But it all depends how you want to learn it. So which means that any single thing in the Torah, you could actually come and see it in a different light. But it all depends when you look at it. You say, oh wow, I look at it this way, I look at it. But that's because the person is thirsty for Torah and they see it and they enjoy it because they have a love for Torah. So he comes and now he says, the same happened with Rav Elyashiv and Rav Shach. Rav Shach and Rav Elyashiv, they knew all the entire Torah. Rav Shach has Sefarim on Iyun, but when they had a question or they had something, it was as if that you didn't understand. They learned something new in Torah. It was a different world. Another important concept, which is actually brought down, is, right, what is Gilui Arayot? Lo tegale et ervata. What is lo tegale? Gilui. Where do we find that? Gilui is to reveal. And therefore, we actually learn that just like when you have a clothing, the less clothing that you have, the more that you're revealing, the more clothing that you have, the more Kiddusha that you have. Meaning that you have something which is revealing, which is right, and you have the same thing the other way. Where do we see the same Lashon brought down by the Torah? Rabbi down by the Torah, Tilim Kuf Yutet. We say it every single morning. If you open up a Gemara, it says, yeah, you have it here. Galenai ve'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Galenai, what is gal? Gal, what is gal? By gal, to reveal. Reveal. Galenai ve'abita, reveal my eyes, so that way I could see niflaot mitoratecha, the niflaot of your Torah, the things which are hidden in your Torah. The exact same lashon which is used by Gilui to reveal is written by the Torah to reveal our eyes in the hidden secrets of the Torah. And that's why in the Shir HaShirim it says, what does it mean? Chamukei yerechayich. It's like yarech. It's like the thigh. What is like the thigh? Divrei Torah is something which is hidden. And that's why the Or HaChaim HaKadosh comes and he says, do you know, this is an incredible chidush. Listen to this. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to have and give us an or. What is that or? What is the or that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give us in the future? You know what the or is going to be? Huh? You know what that or is going to be? לעתיד לבוא, הקדוש ברוך הוא יגלה לנו עוד ועוד דברי תורה. You understand what just happened? הקדוש ברוך הוא is going to reveal to us more and more דברי Torah. That's the or that he's going to give us. He's going to give us light, which the light is the Torah. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come and give you one Dvar Torah, and another Dvar Torah, and another Dvar Torah, and another Dvar Torah. That is the light that he's going to give us in the future. So when we come and we speak about the light that we're going to get in the future, it's talking about that, about the Torah. And now it's even more now when we're talking about how does the Yetzer Hara start. So the Yetzer Hara starts from the beginning on the outside, and then at the end it becomes on the inside. Where else do we see the same thing? We saw the same thing by Not only because he brings down a pasuk over here in the Gemara Masechet Sukkah, is talking about that the Yetzer Hara is on the outside, then it becomes on the inside. Says the Torah is the same thing. Because we say in the Gemara in Kiddushin, we're talking about how does the Torah start? The Torah starts, at the beginning, it's Kim B'Torat Hashem Chefzo. It's Torat Hashem. Afterwards, it becomes your Torah. What does it become your Torah? Because once it becomes inside of you, it's different. The exact same way like the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara at the beginning is on the outside, but then it becomes inside of the person because he brought him in. The same thing is going to be with the Torah. And therefore comes the rabbis and they say that that's the only way to actually come and to understand. Okay? There's another incredible concept brought down, right? Which is something, this is something incredible. Listen to this. Anybody ever realized that there's something which is called Mikveh Yisrael? A mikveh. Yeah, a mikveh. Correct or not? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our mikveh. How does that work exactly? So listen to this. They say that the biggest tikkun for any avirah is Torah. Anything that you want. You heard? The tikkun for any avirah is Torah. How do we work? How does that work? Why is it that Torah is the biggest tikkun? So the Midrash and Shira Shirim Rabbah says, Yishakeni min yishikopiyu yetahareni. Give me tahara. And now it's going to say like this. Does mikveh work for everything? I'm asking a question. Does mikveh purify everything?
No.
No. How do we know that it doesn't purify everything?
Because
Listen carefully. Klalu shelo kol davar yesh tahara b'mikveh. Not everything could get tahara in a mikveh. Adam bekelim, a human being in utensils, they have tahara b'mikveh. But food and drink, there's no tahara b'mikveh. Kli cheres, earthenware, no tahara b'mikveh. He says, but there is a way to make it pure. You know how you make food and drink pure? How do you make a drink pure? You know how you make a drink pure? You do something which is called hashaka. What is hashaka? You come and you put it inside the mikveh. You don't submerge it into the mikveh. You connect it to the mikveh. So now he comes and he says, that's the explanation of Torah. Water to water, or any, what happens? He comes and he says this. When we learn Torah, we become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, the Torah, which is like water, even if a mikveh won't be able to purify a person. But when you learn Torah, you become connected through Hashaka. Through it's like kissing. What happens? If you ever go to a mikveh, I don't know if you've ever seen, you have regular water in one pit, and then you have water, which is made mikveh in another pit. When they connect through a pipe, once they're connected, it becomes a mikveh. It purifies everything that was inside of it. That's called Hashaka. That is like the Torah. The Torah comes, if you're going to come and throw a person inside, it's not going to help. But the Torah is nishika. The Torah is like a kiss that you come and you bond. And once it becomes like one, what happens is, it's a completely different world. See, it comes.
Water is also the
Water is also the Maim Teorim. The Maim Teorim. So that's a pshat when we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to throw on us Maim Teorim utartem. Because the Maim Teorim of Torah comes and makes us connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And once we become connected with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now it's a completely different world. Because now it comes and the Torah is the biggest tikkun on any averah that there is. There's no averah that the Torah is not a tikkun for it. It doesn't exist. Orachayim HaKadosh.
You're on page 4.
I'm on the second last page. Yeah, if you want, we could go back to page 4. Second last page says, Orachayim HaKadosh says, in Parashat Acharemot, he says, I don't understand. If a person is already so much involved in arayot, he's honest, he's force majeure. Why should he get punished? He's force majeure. It's like he's a robot already. It's like he's already doing it. So he says, so why is it going to be that he's going to get punished? Answers Orachayim HaKadosh, you know why he's punished? He says, because of the gedarim. Because of the fences. What does that mean? He says he's not an honest on the fences, and that's what he's going to get punished for. And the yikar is shmirat enayim. What we see, what we're looking at. Shmirat enayim. So he comes and he says, we're going to give a mashal. Imagine right now you're traveling at 180 kilometers an hour. Yeah, how much is that in miles?
120.
120, let's say. You're going 120. And all of a sudden you see from far, a child comes right in front. And you go, boom. You come to court, and the court comes and they tell you, you know, this and that. Because, listen, Your Honor, I apologize. It's impossible. I couldn't have stopped at that speed, right? I couldn't stop for the thing. Nobody could have stopped. So why are you going to punish me? So what is the guy going to tell you? The judge is going to tell you, listen, I'm very sorry. I'm not punishing you that you couldn't stop. I'm punishing, why are you going at 120 miles an hour? That's what I'm punishing you for. Not for that you couldn't stop. Why are you going that like that? So that mashal says, the rabbis, is the exact same thing. The nisyonot that we have of our generation are so strong, it's not going to be on the honest, on listen. If you would have put that mashal, even that he wouldn't have been able to stop. That's not what we're going to punish for. We're going to punish. Why are we going like that? Where are we going? Where are we headed? What are we doing? What are we looking at? If you're going down the beach and you're going to see things, obviously, what do you want? Well, I couldn't control them. Obviously, you can't control yourself. You're a human being. But that's not, you're not going to get punished if you couldn't control yourself. You didn't get punished. Why did you go? What did you do? What do you look? The Gdarim, the beginning part. So now, right, he comes and he says, and with this we finish, the last nekuda.
Yetzirah is actually doing.
Oziel comes and he says, Targum Yonatan Oziel, right, Parashat Matot. When they came back from Milchemet Midian, you know what Bilam did? He told the Midianim that they should beautify their daughters. Is that what we should follow again? Is that what we should follow again? What happened? Imagine, you don't even have to go there. They come to you. Yeah? So what happened? It didn't work.
It did.
No. The second time around, the second time around, it didn't work. What happened? They went and they already took off the jewelry and they didn't look at them. Says Yonatan ben Uziel, listen to these words. He comes and he says, Yitkalul Yom Adin. הזכות הזאת תעמוד לנו ביום הדין הגדול לכפר על נפשותינו. This zechut of watching over our eyes is going to stand for us on the din of Yom HaGadol ve'anorah. The biggest thing. What happened on the din of Yom HaNorah? We always mention the story of Shemuel HaNavi. Shemuel HaNavi was brought up, right, by the sorcerer, by the woman, right, with for Shaul Elmaleh. Who did he come up with? With Moshe Rabbeinu. Why did he bring Moshe Rabbeinu? He was afraid of the Yom Adin Gadol V'Anorah. He was afraid of the judgment that nobody gets. He was afraid. So he brought Moshe Rabbeinu to testify that if right now Shemuel HaNavi is afraid that maybe he didn't he didn't fulfill the Torah 100%, what are we going to say? But what does the Yonatan ben Uziel say? Yonatan ben Uziel says this zechut of not going after our eyes is going to stand for us biyom hadin hagadol lechaper nafshotenu, to have it as atonement for us. Look what that means. So imagine what it is. So now when we're going to come back to the concept of Shovavim, now we understand what we're supposed to be doing. During these weeks of Shovavim, and this year it's going to be Shovavim Tat, right? Right? It's Shovavim Tat, what we're having. What happens is that we have to come, we have to do Teshuvah. What is the main Teshuvah? Learning Torah. Because Torah is the biggest Teshuvah. It already started. Shemot, Ba'era, Shovavim, Ba'era. We're already in Ba'era. We're almost finished Ba'era. Yeah. Yeah. They do a lot of fasting. Some people, they fast I don't know, like 40 fast during. If it's a Nidah 84, you don't know how many times of fast in this. If it's a married woman, they could do I don't know how many hundreds. Don't ask. If you actually look in the poskim, it's going down.
Depends how she's looking.
Which one?
Depends how she's looking.
100%. But I just say, but the biggest tikkun is what? Torah. Learning Torah is the biggest tikkun. So therefore, what we're trying to come and we're trying to say? We're trying to say that a person just has to understand that what? That he has to be very, very careful during this time to come and to do teshuvah on everything. What was the teshuvah? Torah is the main thing. Torah and Gilui Arayot was there. Why do we need Gilui Arayot? You know why? Because if it wasn't for Gilui Arayot, we wouldn't be able to learn Torah. So a person that has a strong Yetzirah, what does he have to do? Much more Torah, more Torah. Why? Because the more, if you're going to be with your head empty, Chas v'Shalom, a person will fall. But if he doesn't have that, that's the only way to build ourselves and to do teshuvah, to stand by the Yom Adin.